I want to talk today about being sick or having someone you know be sick, and dealing with the anxiety that can bring, and how it can be really tough, particularly if you already have a mental health issue. I haven't been able to do a video in a few days because I have not been feeling very well. I think I had symptoms that were COVID-19 symptoms. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that because that's not really the point I want to make right now. But this started about a week ago, or just over a week now. And when I first started getting ill, I started to get really panicked and worried about what that meant. How bad was it going to get? Was I going to end up in hospital? I'm trying to rest, but also at the same time, my brain is going 100 to 1, which makes it really hard to rest. And one thing I really want to say here is that when you're sick, it's really hard to keep on top of your mental health issues. It's really hard to not get really down anyway. It's really hard to not get really anxious about how sick you are, worrying about what that means, how ill you're going to get, but also worrying about the fact that you can't do your work, you can't look after yourself as well. I get very emotional. I can't stop crying. I'm not able to fight off the thoughts as well in my head, the ones that say that I should be stronger, I should be trying harder, I deserve this, of course I'm going to get sick, this is all my fault, all of those things. So actually dealing with sickness and anxiety is really difficult. You really need to be kind to yourself. It is okay to rest. It is okay to not do work when you don't feel well. I carried on trying to work for a couple of days, even though I felt awful, which probably didn't help. And even now I feel a bit better. Like I got really bad over the weekend, but I feel better. And yet I'm trying to push myself to work again because I feel guilty. And my house is a mess. And I feel awful. I feel ashamed. I feel like I can't cope. I'm not very good. And I'm really having to try really hard to say to myself, it's okay to rest. If you feel tired, it's okay. You've been really ill. And that's not always that easy. What's even harder is that my dad also became ill at a similar time to me, but he was much worse, and he ended up in hospital with breathing issues and was tested positive for COVID-19. The moment I found out my dad was in hospital was, from that moment, it's been awful. The anxiety took over completely. I wanted to be strong and I wanted to be calm for my mum, and I couldn't. I panicked. I couldn't stop worrying about what was going to happen to him. The fear that this is my worst fear. Something happening to my parents is my worst fear, and here it was happening, and I couldn't be there. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help my mum. I couldn't go and see my dad. It was awful. I couldn't stop thinking about him. I felt like if I stopped thinking about him for one moment, if I didn't stop worrying that something bad was going to happen to him, I became obsessed with just thinking about him, hoping that he'd be okay. To a point where I wasn't going to sleep. It wasn't even that I was sleeping, I was staying up. The first day he was in hospital, I stayed up till 6 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep, because if I stopped thinking about him, something would happen. And I know that sounds completely irrational, I wish I had that power, but in my irrational state at the time, I couldn't cope with him being in there, and I had to do something. I wanted to be able to fix it. I wanted to be able to control it. And that's the thing with anxiety, is that if when you feel out of control, it gets worse. And obviously all the worst scenarios starts going through my head, everything that could happen, and I start thinking these really horrific thoughts. I keep thinking, I knew this was going to happen. I don't know, I somehow have some magical power that I could have stopped all this. And then I started blaming myself for not being strong, for being upset. I started thinking that my boyfriend was going to hate me because I kept ringing him and crying. And I was like, because we are currently separated and in distance. and I was like, he's gonna not want to be with me now because all I'm doing is ringing him and crying and getting upset. So I started overthinking that, which was just crazy because that wasn't helping either. I couldn't rest. My heart was racing continuously. I cannot explain what it feels like. Now, when you already have symptoms for COVID and then you can't breathe, and your heart is racing, you instantly worry even more. So I'm in this vicious cycle where I'm getting breathless, I'm getting panicked, I'm getting worried, my chest is getting tight, my heart is pounding. I can't tell if it's because I'm ill or because I'm panicking, which is this constant cycle. I don't want to ring the ambulance because I feel like I'm a burden. I'm trying to be strong for my mum, but at the same time I'm trying not to have, like, I need her because I don't want to have a breakdown. It is awful. I didn't handle it well. I know I didn't handle it well, but I'm still here. My dad is out of hospital now. He's trying to recover at home. And I'm obviously now terrified about my mum getting sick. That fear is at times unbearable. It's consuming me. I can't do my work. I can't sleep. I am exhausted because I'm up every night. The only way I can deal with it sometimes is to put the TV on and do a jigsaw, because one on their own can't take my mind off worrying. I feel like I'm literally losing the plot. And so what I want to say to people is, if you're feeling sick or if you've got a family member that is sick, it is okay to not handle this well. It is okay to feel awful and scared and to lean on other people and to cry to other people and to ask for help. It is okay to panic and worry. Try, obviously, find ways to deal with that. I have been trying to do my drawings. I have got my therapist I can talk to, so I'm lucky. I've got other friends and my boyfriend and stuff I can talk to. I'm doing my jigsaw puzzle. I've got an app that I use that reads bedtime stories at night, and that's really helped because that's allowed me to kind of try and switch off. But it's awful, and it's okay to feel like it's awful. And when it's all done, it's okay to need some time to rest. People will understand. Don't be afraid to say that you're not handling this very well. Just keep going. If you get to the end of it, you've done well. So that's all I want to say for this video. This is an awful time. There are awful things happening. And if you don't handle it well, it's okay as long as you get through it.